Okay, so in this session we'll see how to create a Adobe form. So what is the transaction code for Adobe Forms?
SFP.
SFP.
SFP is the transaction code for Adobe Forms. Please remember this transaction code. So Adobe Forms transaction code is SFP. So what do you have in Adobe Forms? We have two things here. One is interface. Second one is form layout. So what is interface?
It is a method without.
No, don't go to object oriented app. Okay. So here maybe I'll use like this form interface so that you guys won't confuse. So we have two things here in SFP, form interface and form layout. So form interface is used to transfer data to form layout, not from form layout, right? So it is similar to your smart form interface, form interface. It contains global declarations. It contains form interface like with import, export, and tables parameter. And it contains code initialization where you can write your code inside the Adobe form. So what is the preferable approach to implement the business logic? To write the code in Adobe form itself or smart form itself, or implement the business logic in driver program? Which one is preferable? So always implement your business logic in the driver program and only send that data or pass that data objects to smart form or Adobe form function modules. Okay, clear? But still we can write code inside the Adobe form or smart form. Your regular select statements, you can call the function modules, you can call the class methods, right? That regular ABAP code you can write inside the Adobe form also. In which part of the Adobe form you need to write the ABAP code? Is it in form interface or form layout? It is in form interface. Then the data will be transferred to form layout. Okay. Now, so when you create a Adobe form, what will be generated?
PD.
A function module will be generated for every Adobe form. So you don't need to really create form interface for every Adobe form. For example, there are three or four forms where the inputs are common or the input logic is common. The importing parameters are common for all those Adobe forms. So you don't need to create interface for every Adobe form. You can use the interface which you created for the first time for the rest of the Adobe forms. Okay, but there is a dependency. When there is a change for one Adobe form and where you need to apply those changes for the form interface, so it will affect the remaining Adobe forms also. If you use same form interface for the multiple form layouts, okay, if there is no such dependency, you don't need to create form interface for every Adobe form. You can reuse the existing form interfaces. Okay, so what is the output that is going to generate here? It generates the PDF output. So in smart forms, it's not going to generate the PDF output. Okay, but Adobe Form will directly generate PDF output. Okay, so here we have two types of forms: static forms and dynamic forms. What is static form and what is dynamic form? Static form is nothing, but when you generated the output, you cannot edit the output. You cannot enter any values in the output. Once you generated the output, that is static form, right? Once you generated the output, right? Print layout, when you click on print or something, you cannot edit it, right? But what is dynamic form? You can edit the PDF also. You can edit the output PDF also when you are working with dynamic forms, or you can select some drop boxes. You can select the check boxes. I think you guys might observe these interactive forms, interactive PDFs. Whenever you are filling applications, so it will display one interactive PDF where you are going to enter your details and select the options. And it will automatically populate some values and you are going to enter the additional details. These are called online forms also. So interactive nothing but once output is generated, you can select the options from the output. You can provide the options for the user to select additional options in the output, right? It is not possible in smart forms. Smart forms will generate the output and you cannot make it a dynamic form. You cannot select any options in the smart form output, right? In in Adobe Forms also we have two types. You can create static forms where it will generate the output and you cannot edit any output options, and dynamic forms. Dynamic forms, here we provide the options to select, like your user can select the checkboxes or user can enter the additional details, right? So those are called dynamic forms. First we'll see static forms. So in Adobe Forms, right, we can use scripting. Not manipulation, but so here we use scripting to validate something or to disable or to enable the elements automatically, depends on some condition. So we can use scripting here. We use JavaScript or form calc. This is also one kind of scripting language. It is very easy. It's not that much complex. So we can use JavaScript or form calc to manipulate or to handle form elements. For example, if you want to disable something, if you want to make it invisible, depends on some condition. So you can write that conditions in JavaScript or form calc. Okay. So this is also my interview question. Like sometimes they'll ask you about what are the scripting languages available in Adobe Form. They are form calc and JavaScript. Okay. So I'll show you how to use this form calc and JavaScripts in the next session.
Okay.
Now, once the form design is completed, I will give you one more detail. Subform. It is important element. What is subform? Subform is used to group the elements. Subform is used to group the elements of the Adobe Form layout so that you can adjust the layout accordingly. Okay. So instead of keeping each element in individually, we can group all of them into a subform. So subform can have different properties like floatable, like expandable. So I'll show one by one. Now, once the form design is completed, how to call Adobe Form in your driver program? How to call Adobe Form in a driver program? It is
Yes,
similar
sir.
to Smart Forms. So Adobe Forms is also going to generate one function module, right? So it will generate that function module dynamically. In development system, you will be having one function module. In test system, you will be having another function module. Also, whenever you apply some major changes to the Adobe Form, right? The function module in the development system itself changes. It will generate a new function module name. So for that reason, don't call function module uh, like in your driver program. Instead of that, use our SSF function module name to get the function module name. Then call that function module. Okay. So how to do that? For that, here we use multiple function modules actually. Slightly different. It is slightly different. The first function module is what we use is FP job open. So it will open the print job. It will open the print job or spool job. We can also call spool job. We can also call print job. Next, what is the function module? For this, right? For this spool like open job function module, you can pass your output options. If you want any changes or if you want to pass any special parameters, you can use this open job function module. Next function module,
Yeah, free
fp
function module name.
underscore name. So it will accept form name as input and returns a function module name as output. Then call the function module returned by that specific so call the function module returned by the fp function module name. Fourth fm is close the spool job. Fp underscore job underscore close. You don't need to pass any parameters here. All are optional parameters. Just call the function module to close the spool job. Spool nothing but print. You can take it as a print also. Now let's create a form and call it in the driver program. So what is the so now we are creating the form, Adobe form. First we need to create the interface. So zdemo if material. This is my interface name. Create it. Form interface and click on save. I'll save it in the local object. Now look at here. Is it familiar for you or not? Import, export, exceptions. What is import? Import is to provide the inputs, right? Export, export it is to return the output, if any.
Output.
Exceptions, exceptions are used to raise the exceptions, right? To handle the errors. And global data is used to define your local variables or maybe local internal tables or work areas within the form, right? You can define internal table like structures or work area like structure in global data. Code initialization. In code initialization, you can write your ABAP code here. Depends on your requirement. Currency and quantity fields. If you have currency and quantity fields, provide the reference and data types here. If you have any currency and quantity fields in your structure, right? We did the same in smart forms, right? When we have currency and quantity fields, provide the field name, reference field name and data type. Just click on here to add. Okay. Click here to delete. So here we write the code. Now for today, we'll observe the basic form. Now, how to define a new parameter? click on this insert row, define some parameter, for example, Mara, type. Now what is this Mara? What is this ls underscore Mara? Is it a internal table like structure or work area like structure?
Working structure.
It's a work area like structure because we are not taking a table type here. We are taking table name. To make it internal table like structure, we need to create a table type for Mara, right? Now, let's take only this parameter for now, or create one table type also. And let me do one thing. Or maybe I'll just create a table type. Create a table type. Select the table type. To print the tabular data, activate it. Now define one table also. Add plus symbol. For example, IT underscore Mara. Type Z demo underscore T underscore Mara. Now it is a internal table like structure and it is a work area like structure. Now I'm not writing any code inside here, or if you want to define any global variables, you can define here. For example, ls underscore kna1 type kna1, or if you want to define any internal table, like for example it underscore Mara data. If you want to make it as internal table like structure, you need to use table type here. Okay, so these are the global data which you are going to handle inside the Adobe form, right? But here in this import parameters, you can pass data from driver program, but global data you need to populate inside the Adobe form by writing some code here, code initialization. Okay, for example, you can code write like this. What is our importing parameter for material? ls underscore Mara, right? Hyphen Matner. This is the input parameter. What is the output parameter? Let's take it as IT underscore Mara data. Is that what the output parameter? Go to global data. This is the output data. So you can write code like this. Select star from Mara into IT and into table Mara data, where Matner equal to ls underscore Mara hyphen Matner. Some example, okay? This doesn't make sense.
ATMS.
Hmm. So you can write code inside the Adobe form like this. Okay. For example, if you are not defining the input, I'm deleting it. Check now. Even it is accepting. I don't know. But inputs are define the input parameters. What you need to use here. My input is from importing parameter field, that is this, and the output. And the output is mandatory, I believe. Remove this, check. Anyway, it's not displaying the errors. Maybe it won't generate the form. It will show errors at the time of generating the form, but define like this: input parameters and output parameters. Now, types. In types, you can create your type structures and use them in the global data to define the internal tables and work areas. Okay, you know, right, how to define a type structure? And define the type structure with required fields, and you can use those type structure names here to define the work areas and internal tables. To populate the data to this global data, where you need to write the code in code initialization. Okay, to populate the global data. Even you can use this global data to print the data in form layout. Clear, right? Import, export, global data, types, code initialization, currency and quantity fields. Now, our interface is ready. Activate the interface. So, interface is activated. Now, what is the next step? So, create the form. I'm just following some naming convention. ZDemo AF material. Create it. Okay, sorry. So, we are designing the form. Provide interface name here. Whatever the interface we created, provide the interface name here and click on save. Interface name is mandatory. I told you, right? Even if you have any other interface already available, you can reuse that interface if it is suitable for your layout requirement, right? Here we are, what is the data we are printing here? Material data, right? If there is any other interface already created, if you have already another interface with material data, you can provide that name here if it is suitable for your layout requirement. So if you just need to print the material data, click on continue, save it. Now observe this properties. Properties, you know, we have details like who created it, who changed it, and what is the interface name and everything. And go to context. In context, you have two different things: interface here and context here. This is called form context. What is the form context? Here you can map the interface parameters with the form, right? Without mapping, those are not going to print data in the form, or those elements are not going to be available. Expand this import. So what are these? These are the importing parameters what we have defined in the interface, right? Form interface, right? So these importing parameters data, we need to pass it from driver program. Okay. We need to pass this data from driver program. And these are global data. What is this global data? Global data we defined inside the interface, right? So for this global data objects, data will be populated within the Adobe form, not from the driver program. But this one import data is coming from driver program. Okay. Now map your interface objects to the form context. How to map? First, select the, this one is a work area like structure. You can observe with blue, dotted symbols, blue symbols, right? This is work area like structure. And what about this?
Table,
This
internal.
is an internal table like structure. You can see the difference. Now first map the work area like structure. Select the structure and drag it to the form context and drag drop in the folder, form folder. Now it is mapped to form context. All the fields available in the structure, it is mapped here because we have taken the complete table reference, right? That's why all the tables are available. What is the other recommended approach? Create the structure with required fields and use that structure reference in the when you are defining the importing parameters. Okay, clear? Now tell me how many fields here, how many fields are available here? Maybe more than 100, right? Do we need to really print all these fields in the form? No, right? We print maybe 10 or 10 fields, maybe 5 or 6 fields, right? We're not going to print everything. So that to restrict the data transfer, to restrict the data transfer from the interface to form, to improve some performance maybe. So we can inactivate, we can deactivate the unnecessary fields. How can you deactivate? If you want to deactivate the complete structure, right click on it and deactivate. So whatever the data that is populating is not going to be available in the form. Okay, if you don't want to use this entire structure, you can deactivate this. Deactivate. It is an inactive status. So data will not be transferred to the form. Right? If you want to activate it, right click, set to active. Now it is activated. Now if you want to restrict unnecessary fields, right click on the each field and set to deactivate. Now it is deactive. The data will not be passed to this field. Okay, clear? Here you have conditions also. You can add conditions. So in which condition you want to display this data, you can add conditions here. Okay, clear? You know how to write conditions in smart forms. It is very similar. Plus, if you insert line and add the condition. Next, map the internal table like structure. Just drag and drop in the folder. So this is internal table like structure, right? And if you want to map the global data also, same thing. Drag and drop here, right? And these are system fields. What are the system fields? It contains default values like system date, system time, username, default username, sub RC. If you want to map these system fields also, just drag and drop here so that you can use these elements in your form layout. Now, mapping is completed. Mapping of interface objects to the context, form context is completed. Now, design the layout, form layout. How to design the form layout? Go to layout. If Adobe Lifecycle software is available, then only your layout will be displayed. Otherwise, layout is not going to work. So that is a prerequisite to work on the Adobe Forms, Adobe Lifecycle Designer software. Okay. So even when you got the project and someone asks you to work on the Adobe Forms, first what you need to check is that Adobe Lifecycle Designer software available in my system or not. Okay, clear? So this is the form layout. This is form layout. Here we are going to design form layout. Okay. Here you see we have design view and master page. What is design view and what is master page? So what is the common content in any offer letter? In every page, what is common? Maybe company
Logo.
logo, right? Or
Yes, sir.
maybe some
Details of
company name. So whatever the common data for all the pages, right? That data we need to include in master page. So whatever the data you kept inside in on the master page, the data will be printed automatically for every page. Okay, it's like common data for all the pages. Okay, that's called master page. When you need to design the objects in master page, when you need to display that data in all the pages, the data is common for all the pages. That kind of data you need to place in a master page. Normal page, that's specific to that particular page. Go to design view. So here in design view, you are going to design page specific objects, right? Okay. So here what is automatically generated? One master page and the page. Okay, clear?
yes, sir.
Now, when you are designing the form, you wanted to check how it is displaying. You can check that in PDF preview. You can test your form, not test, but you can observe your changes in PDF preview. How it is looking in the PDF page, even without executing the Adobe form. Okay, so let's start designing. So in the master page, I'll keep a logo. So how to place logo? For that we have elements, object library, or you can if you are not able to view this object, so you can go to this palettes and select a required toolbar. What you have object library, this one, that those options are available in palettes. Okay, palettes are like if you are not able to see any of these options, right, go to palettes and select, that will be displayed. Okay, here navigate to data view, navigate to data view. So what is this data view? In this data view, you can see all the interface objects what you have mapped. So this will carry data to the form. First, let me create, if you want to select the page, go to hierarchy. If you want to select the data objects, go to, where is it? Data view. Yeah, data view. Okay. First, let me design some logo. Go to standard. So these are all different elements available in Adobe Form. You can create a button, you can create a checkbox, you can create a circle, date field, time field, decimal field, signature field. This for signature. Drop downs you can create, email buttons you can create. So there are many advanced options in Adobe Form. So now what is the object we need to create? Logo, right? Select image, drag and drop to your master page. This is master page, okay? Click on choose image. Select from your local desktop. Let me create one logo. How to upload the logo? Do we need to go to SC78 here?
Sir.
No need. No need of SC78.
Okay, okay.
Just double click, go to desktop, select your logo, and it will be displayed. Adjust your logo size.
Save also image JPG image, sir.
JPG or BMP. BMP also you can use. Bitmap
Okay,
images or what is this? PNG images also you can use. Okay.
okay.
So adjust your logo. Okay. This is in master page. I'm doing it in master page. I'll also add some title. I will also add some title for this. How to add title? For that, I need to use text element. This one for free text. Here you can select your font, whatever the font you want and whatever the size you want. Right? You can make it as bold with underline and you can select your required font. You can adjust this. Okay. So this is a free text type. Okay. Now one page is automatically created. If you observe this, one page is automatically created. Page 1 subform. Right? Page 2. I've created one more page. I'll rename this page 2. Click on page 1. It is displaying the same content. Page 2 also it is displaying the same content. Why it is displaying same content in both pages? Because I've placed these objects in master page, right? So whatever the objects I
Yes.
placed in master page are common for all the pages, rest of the pages. Double click on the page 1 and it will take you to the design view. In design view, display your data, design your layout. For example, I wanted to display the material data, right? Simple, go to data view. So for example, I want to display the material data. Select the fields, click on control to select required fields. Maybe I'll drag and drop the material. Whatever the data you want, mtrt, if you want to display mtrt, drag and drop that, right? So if you inactivate a few fields in the form context, right, those will not be displayed here, so that you can just select entire structure. If you have only few fields in the structure, right, just select the structure. When you maintained only required fields in the structure, just select your structure and place it here, just like this. Okay, it will automatically place all your fields in the form layout. Clear? But here in this table I have hundreds of fields, so it is difficult to handle everything. Yeah, I've deleted them. So this is how you can automatically print data. Click on material, click on material. I'll show you very important things. Go to field. What can you see here? Field. What is the type of the field? It is text field. Value. There is no default value. If you want to populate any default value, you can select, you can pass here. Binding. What is binding? Binding is nothing but to map the interface field to this element. To map the interface field to this element. Without the binding, data will not be populated here. Because I have just dragged and dropped here, binding is automatically created. Binding is automatically created. Let me create one object, same kind of object for material type, and we'll select one for industry sector. What is that? What is the type I have to take? This one, text field. I have to take text field. Now I'm not using drag and drop option, but I am creating manually. Now let's observe. Provide the label. For example, industry. Now, is there any mapping available for this field? Mapping is not available. Now you need to provide the mapping. What is the value that needs to be displayed here? Select this and go to object and go to binding. Select here. Bind the value or field. Form and the structure and select the field MBRSH, right? So it's going to apply the all the properties of the data element, whatever the properties available. Name, caption is from field labels. Update all relevant properties. Do not update. I'll keep my own text. Okay. Now value is binded. Okay. Now if you want to print the tabular data, what you need to do? If you need to print the tabular data, what you need to do? You need to place the table here. You need to place the table and select number of columns and rows required. How many columns and how many rows? Include header table. Okay. So this is how you can design the table. For example, or whatever the data you want, you can print the data in tabular format. Okay, but you need to bind the data here. For that, select this as text field and use data binding. Which one you need to bind? Internal table data, material. Okay, like that you need to bind for each column. So the data will be displayed in tabular format, all the data automatically. You don't need to do all the process like smart forms. Okay, now we have binded to material. For the rest of the objects also you need to bind in the same way. Okay, or there is one simple approach. If you keep only required fields in this internal table structure, just select the table and drag and drop here. You don't need to even do the binding. It will automatically, because we have hundreds of fields, it is not able to handle. But if you have only few fields, it will create in the tabular format. You don't need to do anything. Just drag and drop here. It will create the table. It will display the data. Okay. But but here we have hundreds of fields. That's why we are not able to display it in the tabular format. In the next example, we'll create a structure with only required fields. Clear?
Okay.
If you want to place any date, you can place it like this. It will automatically bind. When you drag and drop, right, you don't need to even binding it. It will automatically bind the value. But binding is very important. When you are manually creating the elements, right, select this and go to binding and find your form name and find the relevant structure from which structure it is the value is coming from, and select that particular field. So the binding will be created. Okay, observe this date, observe these dates. If you want to change the format, if you want to change the format of the date, display format of the date, go to values and maybe field, go to field, select the date field. What is the type of this field? Date. Go to field and go to patterns. Here you have date patterns. So you can select any of this date pattern, display date pattern. So it will display in the same format. Okay. So when you are working with the dates, right, it is very important to change that, to select the specific format, right? We should not display the date in whatever the format it is. We should display in specific format, right? And you have to select that format here in field and patterns. What is subform? I told you about subform, right? Subform is to group the elements. For example, I want to move these elements to leftmost left position, because here in the middle I want to move all these elements to left position. How many elements we have here? 4 elements.
Four.
I have to move one by one, right? Or you can select like this and move all. Okay. Or we have subform. Go to hierarchy and go to page. Right click on your page. Right click and insert. Where is subform? Yeah, insert subform. Subform is like a container which can hold all these elements. So design the subform like this and keep all the elements inside the subform. So I'll expand this. I'll keep all the elements inside the subform. So your elements is if your elements are already created, just drag and drop. Select in the hierarchy, select your element and drag and drop to subform. It will be automatically moved to subform one by one. Oh no, I placed it in second page. No, date. Now All your elements are placed inside the subform. Now adjust your subform as per your requirement. You don't need to work with individual elements now to change the layout, right? You can just select the subform and you can adjust it, right? So group always, whenever you are creating a Adobe form, always remember group all your relevant Adobe elements into one subform. This is material data, right? Material header data, right? Group all this material header data into one subform. Okay, so it is very easy to maintain in future. Okay, now select the subform. What is the content? It is position subform. It is position subform, so that wherever you place the object, it will be in the same position. It will be in the same position. Let me select it as flowed. So it will automatically adjust the subform positions to, right? When I selected the flowed subform, it is automatically adjusted, right? In flowed also you have different options: direction, top to bottom, or right to left. See, if you select right to left, it will display like this. Western text, it will display like this. They will automatically adjust within the subform. Top to bottom, one by one will be displayed. Okay, when you selected the flowed option. Position, it's like free size. You can place elements anywhere. Okay, whatever the position you kept, like it will be in the same position. But if you make it flowed, it will automatically adjust it. Depends on the property what you have selected, direction you have selected. Okay, clear? In page 2, it is also you have to follow the same process. If you want to print something different in page 2, design your page in page 2. Okay, clear? And how to print the text? For text, the object is I think yeah, text. If you want to print a long text, like type your text here. This is the text. Now let's observe. I'll show you one more. So is there any dynamic value displayed here in this text? So these are all dynamic values. So whatever the data we are passing in the form interface, function module interface, that will be displayed here. Is there any dynamic value displaying here in this text? These are all static text, right? So in between the static text, if you want to make any of the text dynamic value, what you need to do? Select any of the value, any of the text. In place of material, right? For example, I wanted to display the material number dynamically. Whatever the material number we are passing from the program. Select this, right click. What you need to select? Floating field. Make it as a floating field. Select that field and go to binding. Bind the value, whatever you want to display here. For example, I wanted to display material. Material. Okay, bind the value. Now here in place of material, right, it will display the material number. Like that you can make, for example, if you want to make it as a dynamic value, instead of displaying the text, right click, floating field, and bind the value, bind the field. Okay, now let's activate the form. Save the form first. To save that, Control S and close this layout, close this layout, and activate the form is activated. Now test the form. How to test the form? Let's create a driver program. Create the driver program. Hmm. Okay, I'm not taking any parameters for the sample driver program, and you know how to define parameters and everything. Selection screen, start of selection. Hmm. I'll write some sample select statement. Select single, start from Mara, because I'm taking all the complete table reference in the function module interface. Let me define a work area, because the smart form function module may not accept the inline declaration objects. For example, wa underscore Mara, type Mara. mm, Into, I'm not using any where condition. Let it select any first available material, or let it select first available material. I'm not taking any where condition, but it is always recommended to use a where condition for select single. Yeah, what is the next step? Call the function module. I think, uh, one second. The function module interface, I think we made this internal table also mandatory. Let's make it optional, because we are not passing any data for now. Let's make it optional. Change it. Select optional. When I made it optional, we may need to go to the context and bind again, or just refresh this, or bind again. Delete it and bind again. Anyway, I'm not using it, right? I'll delete it from the form. I'm not using it, right? Let's activate the form. Now, when you execute the form, a function module will be generated. You can see the function. This is the function module. Okay. Now call the function module. What is the first function module we need to use? FP open job. What is the function module name? I forgot. FP job open, not open job. Continue. So these parameters are mandatory. For that, define one the data object. For that, go to the function module and check what is the relevant type it is having. This one I think. ls underscore output because it is mandate. You don't need to pass anything. Okay, you don't need to pass anything. Now what is the next function module? The function module to get the Adobe Form function module name, right? What is that function module? fp underscore
Functional modules.
name. What is the input for this? Form name, right? Provide the form name. What is the output for this? Function module name, this one. EFC name. Define one variable for this. Export. So this is the export parameter EFC name. Define one variable in the program. Type same as function module exporting parameter. Pass, enable the importing parameter and pass it here. Typo. Dot. Okay, we got the function module name. Next, what is the next step? Call the Adobe Form function module. How do you know what is the function module you need to call? Just execute the Adobe Form. You will get this function module, right? Copy this function module. How to copy? Control Y and copy and call the function module in the program. Pattern, call the function module. Oops. Okay. Call the function module. So pass the importing parameters for the function module. So I've selected one record, right? Where is it? W underscore Mara. Both are compatible, right? This work area and whatever the parameter we defined in Adobe Form. Here also we are taking complete table reference, Mara. If you take only selected structure, accordingly, you have to prepare that structure in the program also, calling program also, right? Now enable the exceptions. You can also create custom exceptions in Adobe Forms. Now, in place of this function module name, what you need to pass? Function module returned by function module name, right? Now, close the form. Now close the job. FP job underscore close. You don't need to pass any parameters to this. All are optional. Just close it. Check the syntax. Activate. Form is activated. Now let's call this. Let me keep the data declarations here. Pretty printer and activate. Keep a breakpoint. Execute. If I selected one record into work area, open job. Job is opened. You can select your local printer LP01 print preview. Now See, what is the FP job open is doing? It is opening the dialog box, right? Now call the function module. It will return smart form function module name, and we are going to call that function module here by passing the data. First page and second page. In the second page, we did not design anything, right? We did not design anything in the second page. But why the logo is not displaying? Okay, we'll check that later. Okay, why the logo is not displaying? So this is how we are going to design the Adobe form layout. Okay,
Okay.
clear? So this data is coming from master page. Material print is coming from master page. It is common to all the pages, page 1 and page 2. Okay, so here if you observe, what is this field? Floating field. Within the text, we made one floating field. So data is dynamically displayed here because we binded that particular field to this value. So that floating field, right, is the material number, and in between the text, if you want to print any dynamic values, you can make that as a floating field. It's a very important interview question, right? Clear?